If you are trying to get into a competitive college and wondering if you have any hope, even if you're an underdog candidate, over the course of the last, almost 20 years that I've been working with students trying to get into elite colleges, I have noticed a pattern among the few kids that, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think they would get in, and they did. My name is Brooke, and I've coached students into some of the best schools in the country, from Stanford and Harvard and Princeton and Yale, right on down the list. I also am an SAT and ACT expert. We have just launched our digital SAT prep course at SupertutorTV.com. If you're looking to practice how you play, we have digital SAT practice tests, one out now, more on the way. We also have digital practice questions for almost every type of question that's on the exam, and more coming soon. We also have a digital course for the ACT, and I've written 2 books for the ACT math section, so you can check those out as well. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you can find us there. And as always, there's a blog that goes with this video. If you want to read instead of watch, you can find the link in the description. But right now, I'm going to share with you 3 characteristics of my underdog students that I think really helped them stand out. And the first attribute of my underdog students is making connections. Some of my students have, and sometimes their parents, have an incredible capacity for trying to get connected. And some of you are probably sitting there going, I don't know the dean of admission at Harvard. How am I going to get in? And it's true. If you know the dean of admission at Harvard, it does make it a little bit easier for you to be one of these underdog candidates. But there are other ways that I have seen students who weren't necessarily automatically connected make connections. And I'm going to go through what some of those are here. One is reaching out to faculty at the school in a context that makes sense. Sometimes that's a student who goes to a summer program and forges a relationship with a professor there. Sometimes it's reaching out to a teacher at the school, even though you haven't gone there yet. I had a student once who, every time he visited a school, he would write everybody that was in the department he was interested in and ask them, hey, can I bring you a Starbucks on your office hours and talk to you about your department? I'm interested in attending this school and right? And he did that at every school. And I will say, it didn't work at a lot of the schools, but it worked at one, and that's where he went. That faculty member actually wrote him a letter of recommendation, which is like almost unheard of. He's super charismatic, you know, the kind of person who above and beyond shines beyond their class rank and their test scores because they have a natural kind of charisma. Another thing that students have done is to reach out to their contacts. Do they know anybody who went to this school? Do they know anybody who's an admissions interviewer in their area that can introduce them to the head of the admissions interviews in that area and ask them more about the school? And I think sometimes this comes down to actually getting a nudge or an email or something sent to the actual institution, but sometimes it's actually just familiarization, meaning that students build out their contacts. They even talk to other students who've attended whatever it is. They try to connect themselves as closely as possible to that campus. And that understanding can sometimes filter down into their application itself as well. The other thing, getting letters of recommendation from alumni whenever possible. Another thing I've had some students do is they switch out who does their letter of recommendation from their high school according to where their teachers went to college. So if they have a teacher who went to Yale and they're applying to Yale, sometimes they will rework their strategy on letters and ask the Yale teacher to write the Yale rec. And I have seen that also be an effective strategy. And likewise, if you're an athlete who maybe isn't recruitable, but you're good enough to walk on, can you reach out to those coaches? Can you have those coaches send like a little letter over to say, hey, this kid's probably good enough to walk on our team. His swimming times are good enough. Just putting a heads up to you. Making connections is a great skill. And if you can do it, sometimes that can be a thumb on the scale beyond just your metrics, what you've accomplished and what you've done. Trait number 2, persistence. Now, I don't know if my underdog students get in because they're persistent and that's just the kind of person that they are. So they just like never give up, and that exudes through their application, and that quality is more important than grades or test scores for success in life. Or if their persistence actually leads to direct actions that, you know, throw the dominoes down. But either way, my students who get in that are underdog students usually don't get in first round. They get in after being deferred. They get in off wait lists. They claw their way into these universities. And one tool in that mix is always a low-key. They write low-keys, man. And sometimes they write 2 at like different stages. After they're deferred, they write a low-key. After they're waitlisted, they write another low-key, right? So that's one. They also are sending updates. If they have any new awards, any new reasons to brag, they send over an email to admissions. They're not shy. Sometimes they keep taking the SAT or the ACT. If their score's not there in October, they take it again in November. They take it again in December. They don't give up. Oftentimes my underdog students have taken the ACT. I swear to God, they're the students who took the ACT or the SAT more times than most of my other students. Like if I think through, I have 3 underdog students I'm thinking of right now, and all 3 of them took standardized tests at least 5 times. But this is why they're underdog students, you guys. They may have had a 33 on the ACT, but that 33 was like hard fought. It was not like they blinked and got a 35 out the door. And I had one student who got a 35, but it wasn't 35 all along. It was like 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, like 5 tests in a row. Yeah, persistence. So again, I don't know that persistence is the reason that they got in, but these kids are persistent. And if you are persistent, that's going to bode well for you in this process, not giving up. And sometimes they also write narratives about how they don't give up. Not always, but it is a marked character trait that I have seen in these students that are the underdogs, that do manage to get in. They've got grit, they've got persistence. Number 3, they acknowledge their faults. So the other thing, and this kind of works into the low-key, because this is oftentimes my low-key strategy, and I know I talk about it in my other videos, which you can check out if you want. But students who are underdogs that get in usually acknowledge their faults. And the reason that they become underdogs, you guys, is usually something is not perfect in their application. Now, I will say if you have C's, it is probably over for Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, and Yale. It's not happening. 99.9% chance, not happening. There's just too much grade inflation in the United States to deal with your C's. It won't happen. So please don't think that you're going to talk your way out of that. But if you've got 5 B's, 6 B's, and then you have an upward trend in your grades, what the heck happened? Maybe you explain that. If you didn't do a lot of activities freshman year, why is your freshman year activities slate like totally empty? You explain it, you talk about it, you figure it out. We understand what happened, what went on. You admit that you're not perfect, but you also reiterate why and how you're awesome. So the other thing that these students know how to do is they know how to acknowledge what they're missing, what their fault is. If there is a problem with their application, they've already anticipated it so that they can use the power of persuasion to argue it away. Again, they landed in my underdog pile because of the facts. And if those facts aren't shiny and bright, these students know how to acknowledge and call out the weakness before somebody else calls it out on them. Now, of course, the balance should always be positive. It should always be emphasizing how you're awesome, but being real can also pay off. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and that was helpful. Thumbs up if you guys like this video. Again, we have a digital SAT self-paced course that includes practice tests, practice exercises. It's like a bunch of books rolled into a digital format so you can practice, practice, practice. If you are a self-studier, this course is for you. If you are a tutor and want to give your students material, this is for you. And we're coming out with a tutor mode soon, so you can actually run whole group classes and see all of their exercises and assign things and all of that good stuff is coming out in 2024. And we have more material coming to the course. So we are in beta mode right now. We will be launching more and more material. We will be probably 100% full up and running before the March exam next year. But join now. We have awesome discounts going on in our first few weeks. And tutoring, consulting, if you need help in this process, we've got lots of people to help at different price ranges. SupertutorTV.com/tutoring. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.